Hello and welcome back to another University Deep Dive. Today we're talking with student John Schellhase, and we're here to talk about an MBA in real estate at Emory University. So Spencer and John, we will kick it over to you.
All right, John, thank you for your time today. I'm excited to talk about studying real estate at the MBA level at Emory. I guess the first question for you, John, as we get started, what does it mean to study real estate as an MBA student at Emory?
Yeah, Spencer, I appreciate the question and the opportunity to talk about kind of my experience at Emory. I would say, to answer your question most directly, it's really great to be at the Sunbelt epicenter of real estate in Atlanta, and all the growth that's happening in the city. It's one of the top 6 or 7 largest metros in the city, and to really be in the middle of the urban core, and to not only have the ability to study it in an academic setting like most graduate schools out there, but also to be in the middle of kind of the laboratory that is the city, and to be part of that journey and understand and touch and feel and see what real estate's all about. That's just a massive opportunity that I've been fortunate part of, to be part of that Emory experience.
Yeah, that's great. So let's get a bit more specific about the MBA program at Emory uh, and real estate as a concentration within MBA. First off, what is real estate a concentration? Is it a minor, or is it just a chosen path? Explain to us how one studies real estate as an MBA student at Emory.
Yeah, great question. So real estate is a concentration at Emory, which is great. And so the way the MBA program is structured, you can choose 1, 2, 3 concentrations. Real estate is one of those. It's not atypical to choose corporate finance or capital markets and then add on real estate to that to kind of have a blended experience. And then, and the program as a whole is a really interesting experience altogether. Most of the classes, ironically, are taught by adjunct faculty, which is maybe a unique selling point. So these are leaders in the business today. One owns a debt fund today. One worked at Jamestown and AIG and Trammell Crow for a long time. 2 of them own their own development shops today. They led pretty large national shops in the Southeast. And so that's one of the really unique things about Emory Real Estate is not only is it the concentration, but then the concentration is really led by a group of practitioners who've had a lot of success in real estate, but also continue to practice today. And so you're learning really from those who have true experience and continue to have experience every day in and out.
Yeah, that's an interesting comment, especially practitioners who are in a dynamic, fast-growing real estate market like Atlanta, right? Where really the epicenter of where growth is happening in the United States right now, or one of the epicenters of where growth is happening, and so to be taught by practitioners that are on the front edge of that, that's a big advantage. What's the size of the cohort that are studying real estate relative to the broader MBA class?
Yeah, so it's an interesting answer. I'm going to break it into 2 parts. So from the MBA program, we're a mix of 2-year students, 1-year students, and evening students. So I kind of blend the 3 together and can break it up as well. We have about, on an average yearly basis, somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 to 60 MBA students from those 3 combined programs interested in real estate and focusing on real estate specifically. If you break that up, about that 60 number, about 5 or so are in the full-time, call it another 3 to 5 in the 1 year, so the 2 year, then the 1 year. Then the bulk are actually in the evening program, which is a really interesting component because most of them are practicing real estate today. And then they're crazy enough to go to school at nighttime as well. But it's a really great intrinsic advantage because then you have 30 of your 40 of your classmates working in real estate, maybe at firms you want to be with. So you have this kind of hidden networking advantage on top of just being at Emory in the middle of Atlanta.
Well, I imagine it makes the classroom discussion much more rich as well, right? Real experience, real time experience coming from many of your classmates. So that's an interesting advantage. What is the time frame to complete the program, and number of credit hours? Kind of typical 60 credit hours, like your typical MBA, but Maybe I'm putting words in your mouth. Depending on the program, it's going to take you a certain amount of time. But help us understand timing a bit there.
Yeah, no, that's probably not an uncommon answer. Probably pretty standard across the board. It's a 2-year journey, right? So August to May over a 2-year basis. The standing credit hour package. The only, I think, unique thing I would share beyond kind of what's normal across most MBA programs is Emory requires a global experience module, which some other schools do. So students are required to spend a week traveling abroad, meeting with different business leaders. So I'll, in this coming January, go to Israel with her entrepreneurship professor and visit a bunch of companies and understand what that looks like. That's one. Two, Emory's got something called an impact project, where you spend a semester working with a real company. Most schools apply that to kind of more of a traditional consulting style project. At Emory, you can actually choose to do that in real estate, which is a really interesting component and opportunity. So instead of doing your impact project in a CPG company or a manufactured goods company, you can go spend it with an industrial developer, for example, helping him figure out kind of what their next market strategy looks like and doing a bunch of feasibility work across the semester. That's a great real world opportunity you have to kind of apply, but also get academic credit for that kind of project directed experience as well.
Yeah, that sounds like a great experience. Other coursework. So you talked about practitioners as your professors. If you have 60 credits, how many of those credits are real estate specific versus your kind of core MBA classes?
Yeah, so great question. I'll walk you through the real estate specific courses. So we have a development class, which phenomenal class. Kind of the core remit of the classes throughout the semester. You're going to build a hypothetical project somewhere in the city of Atlanta. So you go find a piece of land, have to put together a capital stack, have to look at a leasing strategy, have to look at design elements, obviously legal structuring. And at the end of the semester, you pitch it to a group of 20 or 30 investment committee members, which ironically are all executives at local and regional firms. So again, not a bad place to be from a student perspective.
Right.
On top of that, we have an advanced finance class, with all the normal kind of advanced capital market style concepts, very heavy Excel modeling in that class, of course. We have an intro class, which is kind of more of a one-on-one class. So it's just take your intro finance class and just apply kind of some basic real estate concepts against it. We have a market analysis class, which is more the feasibility side of the business. And then what's really unique, Spencer, on top of those core real estate classes, we would have what I would call real estate adjacent classes. So we have a class called Doing Deals, which is taught by a lawyer from a Big Four firm in Atlanta. And it's all the legal structuring, the legal side of it, right? And so how do you put together an LOI? How do you put together a PSA? What does that look like? We have another class taught by a gentleman from a bulge bracket fund up in New York, again, back to the adjunct kind of thesis. And it's all about distressed real estate. He leads credit and debt for a large fund. So you spend a whole semester going through distressed investing and what does that look like? How do you structure things? And that's a really interesting perspective to have as a student. So kind of the culmination of all those is really all about the real estate curriculum at Emory.
Yeah, a deep curriculum offering in real estate. That's impressive. What about extracurriculars outside the classroom? What sort of opportunities as a real estate student do you have to engage with alumni, getting some experience in the field and so forth?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I will start with the real estate club is ironically the largest club on campus at Emory.
No kidding.
And surprisingly, right? You wouldn't
Yeah.
necessarily expect that. We did something really unique at Emory about 2 years ago. We merged the BBA and the MBA real estate club into one, which is somewhat atypical to have for most colleges. But we did that for a couple of reasons. One, strength's always in numbers. You can do more things when you have more people together. And two, it allowed us to be much more strategic on how we develop programming for students. So instead of reaching out to JLL with the BBA club one week and reaching out the MBA club the next week and us all looking like idiots, we now have one kind of consolidated effort, which resulted, to kind of your question, in 148 students in real estate at Emory today, which is, we're a really small school altogether. I mean, that's a pretty massive number.
Yeah.
From a programming perspective, to go to your question directly, we have events almost every single week across the year. We bucket them into 3 or 4 areas. So you can get involved and take the leadership in planning a student alumni reception. We had one last week. We had 163 people show up for it, including 80 alumni. And as a student leader, and this is a really key point of this, you're empowered to lead that event. So maybe at some other schools, the center staff, right, would set that up for you.
Mm-hmm.
At Emory, think about it. You're the two student leaders, and you're going to reach out and speak with the local managing director of Heinz and maybe the CEO of Portman Holdings. And you're going to work with them to structure that event at their location and put the fundraising in place for it. And what an organic, natural networking opportunity that students have for that. So we have a bunch of those throughout the year. We have kind of a modeling club that exists today just to help students go through kind of case prep from a modeling perspective. And then the last thing I'll just share, we host 3 major conferences now at Emory. That's new this year. Last year was just one. So students get involved to planning a major conference like Cornell, like Columbia, like Chapel Hill have, where this past year we hosted 620-ish people across Atlanta. And if we're fortunate enough to have Sam Zell as our keynote speaker, among other regional executives, such as the CEOs of Jamestown, Monarch Capital, Ares, et cetera, et cetera. So, and again, that's a really differentiated opportunity because at other schools, a lot of the staff does the legwork and kind of engages with alumni. At Emory, we have amazing school support on kind of the back end logistics. But as a student, you get the opportunity to reach out and engage with all these alumni, which if you're looking for a job, I mean, you probably would agree. You can't set it up better than that.
That's right. That's right. Well, that's where I was leading to, alumni support. What describe the alumni, the Emory alumni base as it relates to real estate, both geographically. Would a prospective Emory student expect the majority of alumni to be in the Southeast? And what sort of support do you get? What's the size of the alumni base and so forth?
Yeah, great question. So we're primarily focused, geographically speaking, in Atlanta, New York, but have a wide dispersion across the U.S.
Okay.
In Atlanta, to put it in perspective, we're somewhere north of 1,000 alumni in Atlanta alone in real estate practicing, and Atlanta being a huge real estate town.
Oh, yeah.
At the end of the day, what's really unique and candidly shocked me after I joined Emory, did not necessarily know this before Emory, is really the strength of our alumni and kind of what that looks like. This is not a scientific number, so if the admissions office can shoot me later. But, I kind of say we're a small school with a top 5 alumni base. To think we have a number of leaders at firms such as Blackstone and Starwood Capital. We have, CEOs out there in the business, for example, the CEO of MetLife and the CEO of Equity Officer, Emory alums, to really localize and regional firms such as Jamestown and others, pretty well stacked. You wouldn't expect that from one of the smallest schools out there in the MBA rankings to have alumni really well dispersed top to down geographically and then kind of across all industries and functions as well.
Yeah, I mean, that speaks to the quality of the education you're getting at Emory and the people that are around you, you helping one another grow to lead some of the top organizations in the country. We're running out of time, and this has been fascinating. Help though those who perhaps haven't spent a lot of time in Atlanta but are looking at Emory as a possible option. What is the student experience, the student life experience for someone studying at Emory? You mentioned like the urban nature of it, but help those prospective students get a better flavor of what it's like to study there.
Yeah, it's a great question. Atlanta for me is such a great place to go to school in. You're not only in that urban environment we talked about, right? But you also, as a student, have the ability to be part of a really rich, diverse city and culture. There's a lot of other universities such as Georgia Tech and the HBCUs in town. You have a really robust college football scene for those that may matter to. But also you have the ability, just kind of in an Atlanta central location, in a quick weekend, to head to Nashville, Jacksonville, Charleston, Charlotte, and maybe even hop on a plane at the world's biggest airport at Hartsfield-Jackson, which as a student is such a great opportunity to not only take advantage kind of the city culture, right, that exists as a student, but also kind of a broader sense. I would just add the one advantage of being at a small school is you will know every single student by the time you leave. And so you're in this fraternity or sorority by the time you leave, where, as a real estate student, networking and maybe the social aspects matter more than perhaps other careers. And having that as an opportunity for you and being part of that culture, that student life experience is so meaningful at the end of the day.
Sounds like a great place to be. John, as you look back to, I guess you're in your second year now. As you look back to your time thus far studying real estate as an MBA student at Emory, is there one class or event or maybe an interaction with alumni that you look at and you say, "Wow, that experience had an outsized impact on the trajectory of my career"?
Yeah, that's my favorite question that you've asked so far. If I think about my journey at Emory and what's by far and away been the most meaningful moment, it's really that conference I mentioned earlier that with Sam Zell and others attended. And what I didn't share with you, I'll do so now, is really how that came to be. And it goes to why Emory, I think, is a great choice for a real estate student. About a year and a half ago, so a year before the conference, a fellow student, now an alum, and I had the crazy idea to say we would love to throw a massive real estate conference, right? Other schools do it that are in the top 20. For some reason, no one in Atlanta has done it. We're all taught to be capitalists. So, hey, let's grab that white space. And so we pitched the school on it. And for some reason, they said, oh, yeah, you can do it, probably never believing it would ever come to happen,
Yeah.
right? So 2,000 man hours later,
Mm,
we were able to fundraise $200,000 and put on the kind of conference I described. But the lesson, I think, or the meaningful part to me, is not only the alumni connections that are just going to be lifelong connections, but if you think about that, it goes to show how Emory empowers students and allows them to really craft their own destiny. And that experience for me, as you can imagine, I was lucky enough to have about 45 minutes with Sam Zell in a private setting before the start of the conference. That 45 minutes, I'll never forget the rest of my life. And
yeah.
those connections from working with all of those CEOs have and will shape the rest of my real estate career and put me on a different trajectory. And if it hadn't been for Emory's empowerment of students, that type of opportunity, engagement, and opportunities I'm now seeking today would have never existed, hand down. So
Yeah.
hopefully that answers your question, but
No, it
that's
does.
something that definitely stuck with me.
Congratulations on the conference. Impressive, exciting. What a great way to bolster your career, but also to give back to other students at Emory and real estate professionals in Atlanta. And thank you, John, for those valuable insights about Emory and what it means to study real estate as an MBA student there. And with that, I'll turn it over to Sam to wrap us up.
We'd like to thank John for joining us here today. Thank you, John, and thank you, Spencer. And to the viewers or readers, thank you for taking the time to watch today's deep dive. And the best of luck to you and to your adventure in commercial real estate.